Welcome to Rich Conversations. Today we'll meet up with Kelly Miller. We've recorded this at Pick Me Up Cafe in Wrigleyville, and if you're a fan of background coffee shop sound, this will be your jam. You can follow Kelly at KMMiller07. Let's begin. All right, so we have Kelly here. How long have you lived in Chicago?
I'm going on 6 years. It'll be 6 years in March.
6 years? Mm-hmm. Okay. What neighborhood are you in now?
I am now in the lovely Wrigleyville.
Okay.
Where I otherwise would not have chosen to stay, but it's a happy accident that got me here. So.
Where were you before this?
So, I've spent most of my time in the Wicker Park neighborhood, Noble Square.
Okay.
And that's definitely my preferred vibe, but needed to find an apartment in a weekend, and here I am in Wrigleyville. So
Wrigleyville, okay.
Wrigleyville was the option. Yeah.
What are those ones like?
So Wicker Park, I mean, I love Wicker because I like the kind of a lot more variety of people,
Yeah.
a little bit more relaxed of a vibe. Wrigley is extremely intense, especially when the Cubs are playing.
Yeah.
So happy their season ended early. Sorry for the unpopular opinion.
Oh.
But yeah, Wrigley's intense. It's everything you'd hope for. Live directly behind a bar called HVAC, and it's Fridays and Saturdays. It's like all base until.
So, what's this neighborhood like on a Friday, Saturday night now? Because
Yeah.
It's been a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and with the renovations of Clark Street and all those new spots, it seems a little bit more like bougie, I guess.
It is, and that's kind of the most interesting thing about Wrigleyville is now, unless the Cubs are playing, Monday through Thursday, it is like absolutely dead. It is silent around here. There's nobody out on the weekdays unless the Cubs are playing. And then Friday night, Saturday night, I think it's more tourists, and then there's just a couple of like clubby places that they're apparently hopping, or they just play really loud music for the few people that are in there.
Nice.
I usually just kind of hull up and put on my noise machine.
Yeah. Tell me more about Noble Square.
Noble Square is
that like?
awesome. Yeah, Noble Square is great. It's kind of one of those neighborhoods that one of my favorite things about Chicago is like just the fact that we're all from all different places. There's a lot of people who are like Chicagoan born and raised and have never left the city, and I think that's awesome. And then there's a lot of people from all different walks of life. And I feel like I experience that a lot more in like the Noble Square neighborhoods. You have people who've lived in their houses for 3 generations.
What main streets are over there, like big intersections?
So Noble Square is kind of like, it's right, you know where the 90, like if you get on the 90 at like Division.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like that. I
The
don't know
whole,
what
like,
the
Division,
technical.
Ashland, like
Yeah,
that area?
exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. Like I don't know what the technical cutoffs are, but I don't know. When I lived over there, and my geotagging through my lovely iPhone said I was in Noble Square.
Noble Square.
So here we are. So yeah, I really like that area. There's just a lot of like culture there. I don't know, felt like a little bit more neighborhoody as opposed to.
I feel that.
But there's something cool to be said that like, on my commute to work, I walk directly past Wrigley Field. So I'm sure someday I will look back fondly on that. Right now, it's like,
You're at that point now, though, where you can say, back when I moved here 6 years ago, it wasn't like this.
It was not like this.
It was a dump.
I'll tell you,
The streets of Clark. Let me tell you.
It was a whole different world. Yeah, as I make myself the old person talking to the children lined up outside of HVAC.
Yeah, yeah. So if you have an open Saturday, how would you choose to spend it?
Yeah, so I think brunch is like a non-negotiable, and not like a big deal brunch, just like going somewhere. I'm usually there around like 10 or 11, so
Okay.
Get some good food, like have a couple of beverages, just kind of like nice slow start to the day.
Okay.
I don't know. I surround myself with wonderful industry people, so usually it's like brewery crawl after that.
Okay.
I don't know. If it's nice out, I always try to get to the lake as often as possible. Something about like water is, I don't know, very essential to my mental health.
Okay. What do you do when you're out by the lake? Do you ride your bike? Do you run? Do you just chill on the rocks?
Yeah, I usually walk. I'm like incapable of running, so yeah, either ride my bike or I'll walk. And then there's kind of my favorite spot is like Diversey Harbor. If you walk through the harbor and kind of under the bridge, there's these like big steps that usually aren't that busy.
Okay.
And that's kind of, it's my favorite view of the city. You can kind of look out at the lake and you can convince yourself that it's an ocean or something and something more significant.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When you think of Chicago, what colors do you imagine first?
I gotta say, I'd say blue and then the green river. And not even just St. Patrick's Day. It's just kind of always green a little bit.
Okay.
So my office overlooks the river downtown, and it's interesting to watch it's just different shades of green always.
Do you find it to be clearer some parts of the year compared to others, or what?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. I was talking to some coworkers about that the river, I'm trying to think of when this was. It's probably like a month ago. The river actually looked pretty blue, and we were all kind of taken aback by it. But yeah, I mean, I know I forget the name of the foundation, but there are people doing really good work trying to get that cleaned up. We got birds back. That's a good sign, right? So
yeah,
we're steps in the right direction.
Have you ever taken one of those kayak tours?
No, but I've done the architecture boat tour.
Okay.
I don't know, at least 8 times. Like every time somebody comes into town, I love doing that one. And I actually saw somebody capsize in a kayak, and they actually pulled them onto board of our boat, and I was like, oh, that's awful. Like to be fully covered in that water would just be horrifying.
Well, it's interesting because we back when this was like 2008, 2009, and so we started at like Lane Tech and kayak there, and we hopped on the river, right? And the water over there is it's not like downtown.
That's the good water.
You do not want to touch that water. And then when you get downtown, it's like, oh, look at this. This is really nice.
They're skimming this. Yeah. No, one of my friends always tried to get me to do the kayaks. There's just so many big boats there that I don't know. Maybe like further up river in the murky waters, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The downtown, I hear too many of like the boat horns when I'm working. I'm like, ooh, that means a kayaker's where they're not supposed to be. So I don't know. It'd be a cool vantage point though, I'm sure.
So
sitting on the water.
So the blue and green is what you
I would say blue and green.
Recognize most,
yeah.
And green for the water, not for the trees.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, that's actually something that every time I have somebody who's visiting from like New York City come here and they're like, Chicago's so green, and I never think of the city as overly green. But yeah, that's a wonderful thing about Chicago for sure. The trees that actually do line like pretty much all of the streets.
How often do you have friends visiting from New York? You're from Buffalo originally, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from Buffalo originally. So kind of post grad, a lot of people moved to New York City, and so yeah, I've had a handful of people come visit, but I feel like I usually get visitors in clusters. So I'll get like a couple people over a few months, and then Chicago winter's a really tough sell. So
yeah,
in the summer I see guests. Yeah.
Okay. Do you visit New York City often?
No, not at all.
Why is that?
Because I don't think it's better than Chicago. No, I don't know. There's the hustle and bustle that so many people love about New York, and they say it's like invigorating. To me, it's I can do it for a couple days, but I don't know. I just feel like again, unpopular opinion, but I don't know. I feel like there's just so much, that I can still explore in Chicago. And usually when I vacation, I try to get into like the mountains or by the ocean.
Okay.
I don't know. I think Chicago's the best city in the U.S. So, like large city. I like visiting friends there, but Chicago's much more of my scene, which obviously is why I moved here as opposed to there.
What's your proudest moment as a Chicagoan?
Every time someone visits, actually, I feel like I just have this like breath of pride for the city, which is always nice because sometimes it'll happen where, you know, my whole family's in Buffalo, and you know, you get homesick every once in a while. I'm sure, you know, sure you can share that sentiment. And when somebody visits, it's like you remember all of the things that from the day to day that you don't realize how much is, you know, when you're on the Brown Line and you're going into the Loop, and I do this every, you know, Monday through Friday, just like coming around the buildings, and like even when you come into the city, it's beautiful. And I forget that Monday through Friday, but then when somebody's visiting, they're like, wow, this is amazing. Like, yeah, it is. Totally is. I'm like, ooh, this is my city. So yeah, that's, I would say, I mean, I'm sorry if it's a cop-out answer, but I feel like every time someone visits, I'm like more and more proud to kind of have this as my second home.
I like that answer. That's a good one.
Thank you.
So if someone is going to visit you from out of town, what restaurant would you take them to?
Okay, well, so I've worked for the Let Us Entertain You group. So that like restaurant group that owns pretty much every restaurant in River North. So we call it the Lettuce Bar Crawl. And it's basically like going to like some of the best restaurants in Chicago. It's like RPM Steak, RPM Italian, go to like Sushi-san, Ramen-san, and just have like a couple bites and a couple drinks at each place. And that's like my go-to. But fortunately for me and unfortunately for my guests, I'm going to be relinquishing that discount soon. So, yep. But yeah, that's the move. Just kind of show people like all the different spots.
What's your hidden gem in the city?
Hidden gem in the city. Coast Sushi. Coast. Yep.
Where's that?
Yep. So it is Damon and Armitage. That's the original location. I think they have one in South Loop now, which I've not been to, but it's the one on Damon is BYO. It is the best sushi in the city. It's not cheap, but it is absolutely phenomenal. Like I've never left there without being just so happy. It's pretty fantastic.
Coast.
Mm-hmm. Coast Sushi. Yep. And people think like sushi, or you know, you're not gonna have the best sushi in a fully landlocked city in the Midwest, but they fly. I don't know. I think they fly it in fresh every day, or at least they tell you that. I don't know. It's fantastic. It's great.
What sound do you most affiliate with Chicago?
So like, ding ding when you're before the train doors close.
Yeah,
That for sure. Like haunts me, I think.
And the guy's voice after?
The guy's voice, yeah. This is Fullerton. Next stop, yeah.
What music would you say has influenced you the most during your time in the city?
Yeah, so I have somehow ended up with some of like the most talented musicians as some of my closest friends. So through Lincoln Station, it's kind of gifted a lot of us that you know, people who play drums like I've never seen before. Someone who's playing trombone at the Superdome a couple times a year. It's just wild. And then like the coolest humans. So yeah, definitely I would say living in Chicago and being exposed to all different kinds of music. I mean, like different groups. Bone Lang's not something I would have, you know, probably would have crossed my Spotify, but now it's always on my top played, and I'm such a loser for saying that, but Sammy knows.
It's on top of mine too.
It's like
That's good.
The whatever the new playlists are that's like can't stop listening to or whatever. I'm like, you're just feeding my issue. Thanks, Spotify, but fine. Here we go. Let's listen to Plateauer again.
Yeah, if you guys are looking for some music, Bone Lane, Sammy was actually my first guest on this podcast. So you can go back and listen to it if you like.
Sammy Language.
Yes.
The man, the myth, the legend, right?
What's a common scene you see in your daily interaction with the city?
I would say so I work at 9 to 5, and I think the commute is, I don't know, everyone else looks miserable. I love my commute, at least into work. Usually after work, I'm kind of exhausted, but into work, I think it's fascinating. Like sometimes I'm on next to, someone who probably just peed their pants, and then sometimes I'm on next to like somebody in a 3-piece suit, and I don't know, it always makes me laugh when like you'll get people who will have earbuds in, but they're listening to their music obscenely loud. You like look, and there's a guy like listening to Lady Gaga at full volume and like bouncing, very obviously like going his like 9 to 5. I don't know. It's just fun. I like seeing all the different humans in the city.
So you don't get so you don't mind the morning commute then?
No, and I usually have earbuds in, like listening to something probably too loud, and people are making fun of me for it. But I don't like scroll through my phone. I kind of glance around the train and make up stories about people. And
good for you.
That's what I do.
I like that. So what makes the afternoon commute worse?
I think just like usually my brain's just inundated with like work stress, and that's usually my 2 earbuds in and just kind of look out the window and zone out a little bit, decompress. Yeah.
You take the brown line or red line?
So I take the red line and then transfer to the brown line now into work.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then usually after work, I will just take the brown line, like take it a little bit slower. I don't really care what time I get home as much. So.
Yeah, you got that view.
Yeah, exactly. That beautiful view.
If you were given secret information that Chicago would be destroyed in 1 week, what's one quality you would choose to keep to rebuild the city?
I would make sure that all of the different neighborhoods like stayed kind of true to themselves. Like that's definitely one of my favorite things about Chicago is there's so many different neighborhoods, and each are like very distinct from one another. And I think that's really important and definitely more unique for this city from anywhere else that I've visited.
Do you have a favorite neighborhood?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on like the purpose. If I were choosing where to live, like it would definitely be kind of the Wicker Ukrainian Village, that area. But then also I love being by the lake. So there's awesome things about every neighborhood, I feel like.
Yeah, it's true, and there's trade-offs
Mm-hmm.
for every neighborhood, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely am guilty of, I don't explore like the south side as much as I would like to.
Okay.
Like I've heard awesome things about like the Bronzeville area and like all different neighborhoods that I don't know. I'm like a creature of habit, I think. And I keep telling myself I'm going to break that. And then all of a sudden it's 6 months later.
Well, it's interesting too that like Chicago is such a large city and it has all these different neighborhoods, but you can theoretically live your life just in your own like neighborhood.
100%.
And there's like a lot of times everything you need is just all in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no, and I think that's something that I always, like I said, I always try to like say I'm going to go to different restaurants. I'm going to explore some new places, and yeah, I usually end up in the same few, which.
But there's also something to be said about that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of
Mm-hmm.
like, it's like home.
Yep.
In a way.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely.
What's one small thing you would do to improve your neighborhood or the city as a whole?
Mm-hmm. So I spend a lot of time on. I think we need to make a huge investment in the youth of Chicago. So like definitely CPS for sure. I mean, the number of people that I know who would love to stay in the city, but then they say, I'm not sending my kids to a CPS school, and like, the magnet system, all of that, I think is just such a mess. But even beyond that, just like I volunteer for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and then a program called I Mentor, which is a lot less known, but it's just all about the pockets of the city, and there's so many people who, like we said, we stay in our own neighborhoods. We surround ourselves with, for the most part, like-minded and similar people, and I think that there are so many people who don't understand what's beyond, and so that's what I really love about like the Big Brothers Big Sisters program and I Mentor. It's really like showing the youth of Chicago different pathways, different options. There's even, I don't know how you felt like as a sophomore, junior in high school, but you're like, okay, whatever your parents did for a living or your friends' parents, like that's kind of what you thought your job options were, right? So just kind of actively like reaching out to groups, like the underserved groups, and there are plenty of them in Chicago, that I think if we can spend some more time and money investing in those groups, then the entire city, we could see like some actual, real progress instead of just Wrigleyville getting more, what'd you call it before? Like bougie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's so bougie now. It's so weird. Yeah. So
what are some of the things you do with your mentee? Is it mentee position? Yeah.
Yeah. So the I Mentor program it's really like very structured. So my mentee actually graduated from Phoenix Military Academy, and so she graduated a year and a half ago. She was supposed to go to school, and then money didn't work out. She's still trying to work on her 2-year degree. But yeah, it's just kind of basically being another adult who, is a place of support, or, I got to tell her all the mistakes that I made in selecting schools and, all of those things, and kind of transitioning out and like into the world. And
that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's a wonderful program for sure.
When people learn you're from Chicago, how do they respond, and what's your reaction?
Oh, how many people have said, "Oh my God, isn't it dangerous? Isn't it? Are you scared?" And the answer is no, because I respect that I'm in a big city with all kinds of people. Respect that not everybody comes from the same background, and I think I always laugh when people say that. Like, no, it's not dangerous. I mean, I don't know. I watch a lot of true crime drama, and bad things happen everywhere.
It's true.
So, it's always, isn't it dangerous there? Nope.
So does that come up more often than like a positive about the city, or?
I mean, I guess it depends. I feel like people that I'm like friends with, or people who know me well, they're usually like, wow, you have quite the life there. Like, you're always out to dinner, and you're always that discount, or like you're always at a show, and so there's definitely a lot of very positive reactions, but I would say like moreover, people who probably don't know me super well, or it's usually people who have never been to Chicago who just assume it's really dangerous. And
so, yeah, let's examine this a little bit. So almost all my guests on the podcast have mentioned that people say violence, or they bring violence up. But is that what they would say about LA or New York or Houston, Philly?
Yeah.
What about Chicago especially?
It's interesting. So, I mean, like being from Buffalo, whenever somebody finds out that I'm from Buffalo, they're like, oh my God, it snows so much there. I'm like, it doesn't snow all that much. I mean, it, obviously compared to some cities, but I think it's like the kind of the, like on the news, if you're watching the national news, and it's really like the I'll get real technical here. It's like the south towns, like the south suburbs of Buffalo, like up to an hour and a half away. Those are the ones that will get like 6 feet of snow in a weekend. Very, very rarely does that actually happen in the city of Buffalo, but they're not going to report that, Orchard Park, New York got 3 feet of snow last night. They're going to say it's
the
Buffalo.
most dramatic.
Exactly.
The headlines.
Yeah, and they're going to say, oh, yeah, it's Buffalo, got 3 feet of snow, when really it was like an hour outside of Buffalo, or, So I think it's kind of, and there are, the news nobody wants to.
You don't really go on and say,
it's like a sensational.
Over the last 10 years, we've reduced the amount of infants chicken pox, or,
Yeah.
like we're almost, isn't it now like we almost defeated polio? Like there's,
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
we're like working towards like ending it completely.
That's awesome. Yep. Yeah, it's like the little. I think one of my favorite findings on Instagram was an account called, I think it's Tank's Good News. So somebody started this where they share like great news headlines or awesome stories, and
I listened to him on he was on one of the podcasts I listened to.
it's like Tank Sinatra or something like that. But
Yeah. Anyways, I'm aware.
Yeah.
Aware of him, yeah.
So I think and his whole backstory for creating that account was all the news talks about is bad things, which isn't always true, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, you're not going to hear about that Paws saved, 12 dogs over the weekend, or it's like these small things aren't celebrated as much. So
Yeah, it's like human psychology where like we're wired to pay attention to negative things. So if you're running a business that needs eyeballs, report negative stuff because that turns heads more so than the 12 dogs that were saved by Paws,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think that's got to be part of it.
When you feel overwhelmed or need a mental escape, but you can't leave the city, where do you go to clear your mind?
Yeah, that place just beyond Diversity Harbor, those stairs. I've definitely, especially when I first moved here, I would just spend hours just sitting there. Like sometimes I'd bring a book, sometimes I would just look at the skyline, like kind of watch. I mean, the people watching along the lake is prime, so that always provides entertainment. But really, just like watching the city from, I don't know what's that, probably a mile and a half away, or like looking at the skyline is just something very captivating, and then you can see the water, and yeah.
What's something you're curious about recently?
That's a good one. I'd love to know, like how many. I don't know. Have you noticed that there's like literally a mini Target on like every corner, and like there's all of these. I love Chicago's architecture. I think I love like the mix of the new with the old.
Yeah.
But how many of like, especially in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, I see it a lot where these older homes are being like knocked down, and then the same 4-unit condo building that looks exactly the same as the one that was just built the year before next to it. So I think my curiosity, or my not to be negative, but like my concern is how, like, I hope that more of Chicago could be preserved. Maybe it's because I live in Wrigleyville and it's all brand new now. But I think there's a lot of like character, and that's one of my favorite things about Chicago is you can walk past like the L&L Tavern off of Belmont.
Right, like right up. yeah,
like,
that one.
Yeah, where you're like, they're just unabashedly like, yeah, we haven't mopped the floor in a month.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like they like pride themselves on their bad Yelp reviews, and I think some of that's just super Chicago, and I don't know, it's just weird to see like Ragstock around the corner from here is now like a used furniture.
Did it go out of business?
Yeah, or no, they moved. They moved to, I think
There's
they're in
one in
Wicker Park
Wicker,
now
yeah.
too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. telling you,
Okay.
Wicker's the neighborhood.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's interesting. I feel like individual houses like that, that's more so the individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which they have more probably like leeway to do that type of thing. But I imagine there's like more regulations in place for bigger buildings, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure there's the the preservation of some of the buildings. But yeah, it's just kind of funny to see, like, I don't know, right by Lincoln Station, like Montana. When I walk down there, it's like every couple months another one of the houses is gone, and it's odd, you know. Odd to see. I'm all about improving the city, but you know.
Do you not like the new type of architecture right now?
I really love the mixture, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, and not to get like too heavy, but it's like less so in the Lincoln Park neighborhood. Obviously it happened a long time ago, but if you go out to like the Noble Square area, and when those single family homes are knocked down and then they put up these 3-4 flat condo buildings, we start like pricing families out of the neighborhood, when everyone's like super excited that the buildings have appreciated in value and all that, but then all of a sudden, third generation can't cover their taxes, and so
Right.
it's just I feel like it's a very delicate balance between like improving the city, but then also making sure that we're respecting what's truly Chicago about the neighborhood.
Yeah, I noticed that quite a bit. One thing I'm very fascinated about recently is the different style of bricks. Everywhere.
You did say that.
I
yeah.
have a very particular favorite type of brick. Very partial. But there's these other ones. I went for a morning walk. I just have a cup of coffee, and I just walk down the street, sit on a bench, and I noticed there's 7 buildings all in a row, and they all have different type of bricks. Mm-hmm. And I think that's pretty cool that a lot of times cities are just like whitewashed the same, and everything's the same, and here you have all this variety. Mm-hmm. I enjoy that.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona for 6 years, and I think that's like the.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yep, 2nd grade until 8th grade. So yeah, but one of the things that I always remember about my time there was within a neighborhood there was actually like a homeowners association. I remember when my mom wanted to paint the house, and we had to get it approved by the homeowners association, and I think they gave her, I don't know, maybe like 8 swatches to choose from. So she owns the house. It's our house. It's not attached to any of, what I mean? It was just so odd to me as a child, like that my mom was an adult who owned the home, but she couldn't pick whatever color she wanted. It had to be a certain, so that they all looked the same.
You know what that reminds me of? Are you familiar with the history of the Pullman community?
No.
In Chicago?
Mm-mm.
So George Pullman owned all these train cars, because Chicago became this massive railroad center of the country. Mm-hmm. So he had all these railroad cars, and then he built a community for all of his workers to live in, and it was down in like far south side. Mm-hmm. And he built this entire community, all the houses and everything, but it was like you couldn't touch anything, and kids couldn't leave anything in the yard. Everything had to be like you couldn't just sit back in your chair. You had to like not mess with
Interesting.
anything.
Even
and then
though
he
it
would
was your
charge
home.
you. Yeah, so he would charge them rent and didn't get a discount or anything that he worked there. This is like the the late 1800s,
Sounds about right.
But these are all like really nice. This whole community that they built in Pullman, all these really nice like state-of-the-art houses,
Mm-hmm.
but you couldn't do anything to them. It's like one of those like sci-fi or like Black Mirror or like
Yep.
Twilight Zone where you can't
Interesting.
actually like live, you know?
I need to look more into that. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah.
I think it's I think Obama made it a historic site, national historic site.
Huh.
So
That's awesome. That's
check
really
it
cool.
out, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's what Phoenix is like.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Phoenix is weird. It's weird. All of the houses have these like 8-foot cinder block walls between them. very, very interesting. They definitely have us, on weather like 80% of the year, but
Yeah.
I like all the character, all the different houses, and I think that's.
Within the past 5 years of living here, what personal realization has improved your outlook on life the most?
So I am actually you did know me when I first moved here, right? I mean, I moved here on a Thursday, and I started working at Lincoln Station, unplanned when I moved here. I moved here with no job, no apartment, no anything really, and yeah, I moved here on a Thursday. Started working at Lincoln Station the following Tuesday.
Okay.
I think my biggest realization is just how different of a person I am. I come from my mom and my siblings and I are all extremely close, and I was textbook codependent, and now my family makes fun of me because they're like, Miss Independent. I struggle to take anybody's opinion, really.
Okay.
I value it, but then I'm kind of like, well,
I value it, but...
I'll listen to what you have to say, but I'm probably just gonna, But yeah, so I think that's kind of been the biggest realization is how much more I can grow, kind of as an independent. I still talk to my mom twice a day, every day, so by no means am I I'm still extremely close with my family, but just kind of having to make big decisions on my own, and being, every once in a while you find yourself in a situation where normally I would call my family to bail me out, and now it's like, all right, well, figure it out.
Yeah.
And I moved here when I was 24, so I think that's also a very interesting time where you're not really an adult, but you're trying to be an adult.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm also surprised how much I love just being in a city. I'm from the suburbs, and now when I go out to the suburbs of any city, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get out. I gotta get out. No offense to anyone who lives in the suburbs. For me, it's just, I don't know. I either need to be in the city, or in the backcountry of Colorado, or spent a weekend in Algonquin, Canada, where you see way more beavers than people, and it's so definitely polarized for sure.
Huh. Yeah, that's a lot like me.
Right?
I'm either a country or the city. I don't want the in between.
I don't want the in between.
How often do you go out west or out in nature a little bit more?
Yeah, I try to get out I don't know, let's say every 3 months. I was listening to a podcast that my brother introduced me to. It was talking about the biological effects of being in nature, and how your super cells, your super cells in your body, that if you go into if you're not if you're somebody who lives in a city and you go into nature for even just a couple of days, I'm gonna completely butcher this, but I think the number of super cells triples, and then even a couple months later it's still only half of that. So the long-lasting effects our bodies need to be there's that primal need. So yeah, I try and get out I don't know, I'd say I try to get out every 3 months.
That's a good amount.
And out is my favorite.
Yeah.
My friend Joe and I a couple years ago went for my first backpacking trip in Colorado.
Okay.
And he was like, I need to warn you, this is going to ruin regular camping for you forever. And he is 100% correct, because now it's well, we could camp here, or we could climb that mountain and camp up there. And so yeah, it's definitely, now I feel you just want to get to the next peak. And
so you realize that you needed the two. You needed the city to grow as a person, and you needed the outdoors and the mountains to breathe a bit.
Yeah, no,
recharge.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Yeah.
What's something you're looking forward to in the future then?
So I moved here when I was 24. I turned 30 in April. I think when I first moved here, it was everything needed to be super, super planned out. I was trying to figure out this was supposed to be like a 1 or 2 year stint, like a little mini adventure. And now, I'm been here for 6 years. I don't really have any like hard set plans. I mean, I have a career that I love, but can't say that, the next adventure won't take me to another city, or, maybe I'm still here in 5 years. But again, I guess just the point of growth. 6 years in the city, we'll see what another 5 do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, thanks for answering all the questions I have here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Rich Conversations. Again, you can follow Kelly at KMMiller07. Have an extraordinary day.